What's up, everybody? Welcome in. We have a Should Zooberry. I'm Aaron Favors, and we're here to talk about sports. And of course, the show is Lock in Dallas. Okay, so let's go ahead and just jump into it. We have a lot to discuss today. Should, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Sunday night, busy weekend sports. Excited to talk
Yeah,
about it.
I know I was looking through all the sports news this week, and man, there's just so much to discuss. So I'm excited to get started with you.
Yes, sir.
So let's see. So first off, we had a report in an article that came out. NFL executives ranked the top edge rushers in the league. Micah Parsons ranked number 3, and he wasn't too happy with that. What do you think? First off, before we even get into our personal top 5 rankings, what do you think of that ranking of them putting Micah Parsons number 3? Is that too low?
I don't think that's too low. There are a lot of great defensive end rushers. I feel like in the league right now, and I mean just to be in the conversation top three, I think we take that every time. I don't think Micah should take offense to it, and Micah's still pretty young. I think he has the chance to work his way up, but we haven't seen a lot of playoff success yet. We kind of see him start off strong and then towards the second half of the season kind of die off a little bit. So I think three is correct. We'll talk about our personal rankings as well, but I think he's right in that range. I mean, top three, top five, still very, very respectable. Still means he's one of the best rushers in the league.
Interesting. Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and give me your top 5?
Top five, should we go one to five?
Let's go
Five
five
to
to
one.
one.
Five
Yeah,
to one.
build suspense.
All right. All right. So number five, I have underrated player Trey Hendrickson. All right. I feel like
Wow, top
a lot.
5.
I feel like a lot of media players don't or media members don't talk about Trey Hendrickson, but I feel like he's been a big part of the Bengals defense. And honestly, a big part as to why they made their run a couple of years ago and why they're always pretty competitive, especially on the defensive end. With the Bengals, you hear a lot about their offense with Burrow and obviously in Chase, but Hendrickson, 5. Number 4, I have Max Crosby. Kind of same thing. I took into account like kind of the whole defense and the whole team. Max Crosby doesn't really have a lot of players helping him out, and he's still able to put up big numbers and have an impact on the game. Whenever I would put on a Raiders game, he was always making a big impact, and you could, you always had to kind of figure out where he was.
Oh yeah.
Number 3, TJ Watt. When you kind of, look up statistics, he's always number one, kind of all throughout. I think the eye test is a little bit different. I think with the eye test, he's not as quick and talented as other rushers, but he's still able to put up big numbers and he's still one of the leaders. 2, I have Micah Parsons. Super quick, elusive. I mean, just pure pass rushing. He's just a force. He's dominant. But like we talked about earlier, I feel like he can kind of die down towards the second half of the season. I don't know if he gets tired. Originally, he was a linebacker, and so maybe he still needs to get into the groove of being hit every play when he's rushing the quarterback. But still, obviously, top 2. But number 1, Myles Garrett. I mean, it's been like this for the past few years, just dominant, single-handedly, keeps the Browns alive sometimes on the defensive end. Now they have more pieces. Now they have more talent. But Myles Garrett, I think he's been the best pass rusher, best defensive end for the past, I would say past 2 to 3 years. Maybe he doesn't have the numbers all the time, but pass rush win rate, all those kind of advanced metrics, I think they all kind of fall towards Myles Garrett. And he's
Yeah.
from Dallas. He's from Dallas, so
We gotta be loyal to our Dallas.
yeah,
Dallas guys. Yeah.
he locks in. So recap:
Yeah.
five Hendrickson, 4 Max Crosby, 3 TJ Watt, 2 Micah, and 1 Myles Garrett.
Awesome. Yeah. Myles Garrett, you're a friend of the show. You're always welcome on, man. Very interesting. Okay, we have a disagreement, so we'll get into that in just a second. Are you ready for my top 5?
Yes, sir.
So my top 5, at number 5, I got Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah. Is he young? Yes. Does he still have a lot to prove? Yes. But I'm looking at his stats. He had 11.5 sacks last year. He's showing a lot of improvement when it comes to stopping the run. But I just was really impressed by just how aggressive this guy is. Like he'll like just barrel under you. I thought he played really well in the playoffs. I know he struggled against the the Niners. I don't think maybe he was hurt. I'm not sure, but he had 0 sacks, 0 tackles. Maybe didn't make a presence in that NFC conference game. But yeah, I just love the aggression. I think if I was to take you know, if I had say if my top four were off the board in a draft and he was still sitting there for a defensive edge rusher, I would take Aiden Hutchinson because I think that his ceiling is so high. Like his ceiling is number one, right? So I like Aiden Hutchinson. Number four, I have Nick Bosa. So he had a down year last year. He still performed in the playoffs. He had 3 sacks in that, or not 3 sacks. He had 2 sacks, 3 tackles in that NFC Conference Championship game, and he was just showed us why he's considered a top edge rusher in that game. And then, obviously they lost in the Super Bowl, but they still made the Super Bowl run. The year before last, he had 18.5 sacks. So even though, he had a down year for his standards, he's still one of the best in the game. He's a year removed from that type of year. And then third, I have TJ Watt. Not a lot to argue against TJ Watt. I mean, over the last 7 seasons, he's had 96.5 sacks. That's an average of 14 sacks a season. That's just ridiculous, right? So just I think the consistency, I think the strength, he's obviously the anchor of that defense. He's a lock-in for a top 3 edge rusher, in my opinion. Number 2, I have Myles Garrett. I love the arguments you made for Myles Garrett. This guy's just a beast, right? He's excellent against the run, and he's excellent in the pass rush. And I think that a lot of offensive linemen, when they see him on the schedule, they definitely get afraid. He's a big guy, really strong, quick on his feet. I mean, he has some of the best moves to get past an offensive lineman that I've seen in the league. He's had 14 sacks in 3 straight seasons, and we were just talking about how TJ Watt is averaging 14 sacks, right? I think if you get up to 14, 15 sacks a season, you're really making a difference on the defensive side of the football. Number 1, I have Micah Parsons. Okay, so Micah Parsons has the highest pass rush win rate in the league when it comes to being double teamed. This guy needs 2, sometimes even 3 people to stop him, and that just shifts the whole offensive line to his side, which makes the other side of the defensive line better. This guy is just amazing at getting to the quarterback, and I think that when it comes to an edge rusher, you want a guy that, I mean, stopping the run's important, right? But the most important job of an edge rusher is to get to the quarterback, and no one does that better than Micah Parsons. You can watch film, you can look at the stats. His percentage to getting into the backfield is very high. So again, stopping the run is important, but we all know that football is about passing now. It's gone into quarterback play, and quarterbacks are throwing the ball more and more every season, right? So I'm looking for the guy who can get to the quarterback the most. So your top 5, you have Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson. Mine, for the people out there listening, mine is Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Nick Bosa, and Aiden Hutchinson. Okay, so let's discuss this. We both agreed on TJ Watt. Everything else is different. What do you have against my list?
Solid. I mean, solid list. I mean, obviously, I thought about Nick Bosa a lot ahead of Hutchinson and ahead of, not ahead of Hutchinson. Sorry, ahead of Crosby and Hendrickson. I think the biggest thing with me is I kind of take the whole team into account, I would say, because Bosa has a great team behind him. If you look at the defensive line for the 49ers, you got like Pro Bowlers on Pro Bowlers, and not even just the defensive line, the linebackers. He has Fred Warner behind him. Strong, amazing safeties, and just an amazing team. Obviously, we know about the 49ers, and so I don't.
To be fair, you could make the same argument for Michael Parsons, but
yeah. That's a good point. And then on top of that, I was kind of just looking at most recent, and last year I feel like Bosa didn't perform like you mentioned to the
Yeah,
best of his abilities, and
yeah.
so I think that's kind of why I left him off the list when I saw Hendrickson and when I kind of looked at Max Crosby. I figured just a product of their team, they're still putting up numbers. They are the reason why teams, like if a team was game planning, they would be thinking about those players first against the Bengals defense or against the Raiders defense. And so that's my number one thing. But obviously, Bosa, one of the best pass rushers in the league. And second thing, Micah ahead of Miles. I mean, I love Micah Parsons on the field for sure. And I can't argue him going number one. But like I mentioned earlier, I think just taking a step back from the stats and just looking at the eye test, me and you, we've watched every Cowboys game. Like we know this,
Let's
early in the
let's
year, he's putting up numbers. He's dominating, and just throughout the course of the year, he kind of just fades. He dies down. The sack numbers go down. The effort kind of dies down a little bit.
let's
And
let's uh let's
so
let's let's wait on Miles Garrett, Michael Parsons, because we'll talk about them in a second. I want to address the Max Crosby thing. So
I got
I,
you.
I had Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson as my honorable mentions. If
Hmm.
I was a GM, if Max Crosby was on my team and his contract was up, I'm paying him big money.
Hmm.
Trey Hendrickson, if his contract's up, I'm paying him big money. These guys are ballers, right? I think that when I'm looking at my list, I'm going off of if I was drafting somebody. So I'm basing it off potential as well. So Aiden Hutchinson's ceiling is higher than Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson. Even if they were all like rookies, Aiden Hutchinson came in as a better rookie than both of those guys. And that's
I
what I'm
get.
kind of looking. And he had 11.5 sacks last season. I know Max Crosby had 14.5, but that's the highest that Max Crosby has ever had. And you talk about Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa, again, he's a year removed from an 18.5 sack season. So I know he has the better team, but you can make an argument for, like, again, Michael Parsons has a great defensive team. So I think that individually, if you're looking at stats and performance, Nick Bosa has performed. And he had again a down year in his standards. He still had
Mhm.
10.5 sacks though.
That's what I'm saying. How much of that is him being a dominant pass rusher versus him that being a product of the team as a whole? Because I feel like on the 49ers defense, I mean, it all starts with the pass rush, but they had a lot of coverage sacks as well. If you throw in guys like Fred Warner in there, just wreaking havoc, in the run game, I think that makes Bosa's job a little bit easier. Where
But
I
who
feel
on the
like
who on the D line for the Niners is like on Bosa's level?
I would have to take a look at
Yeah, we can
their
look at that real
roster one
quick.
more time. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Keep on going. Keep on going.
But
I'll look
yeah,
it
yeah,
up.
yeah. But they're. I mean, we know 49ers roster is really, really
Oh
talented,
yeah, I mean
and
they
so
made the Super Bowl last year, of course.
I
Yeah.
guess I guess my question to you, and I think there is a difference between like who are your top five defensive ends right now,
Uh-huh.
and who, if there was a draft today, who would be the top five defensive ends you draft? Because that takes into account age, potential, all those things. Whereas top five defensive ends right now, because you were saying for Aiden Hutchinson, like, oh, like think of the future, think of his potential, but is he at the level of Crosby, of Bosa, of TJ Watt right now? I just don't think so. And he is very talented. I think he'll get there in a year, maybe next season or in a couple of years. But from the previous year, I wouldn't put him in the top five defensive ends in all of football.
He made
Um,
it to the NFC conference game, and I think that when I talk about top five guys that I would take, I think I'm mainly I think maybe 60% of it, because I look at stats, I look at the age and injury history and all of that. I think that 60% of it is the ceiling, right? Aiden Hutchinson's ceiling is way higher than Trey Hendrickson and Max Crosby's. And
okay,
he had 11.5 sacks last year. You have Max Crosby on here. Max Crosby's been in the league for a while. His highest sack total came last year. It was 14.5. And also Aiden Hutchinson, if we're looking at it, I know that Max Crosby had more sacks last year, but if we're looking at getting to the quarterback, I think that Aiden Hutchinson is better. I mean, if we want to argue who's better at stopping the run, I'd probably take Max Crosby, but Aiden Hutchinson is the guy that gets to the quarterback. And I think when you're looking at these edge rushers, you have to go with the guys who get to the into the backfield, get to the quarterback at the highest rate. and Aiden Hutchinson's one of those guys.
Okay, so I guess my question to you is like, are we talking about the best defensive ends? Or are we talking about the best pass rushers? Because defensive ends, you can't just ignore half of what they're supposed to do. Like I get what you're saying with like that sacks and that's really the big part of the game. But then are we talking about pass rushing or are we talking about defensive ends? Because I think the original question was defensive ends, and I'm sure they took, the original list took that into account is run game, so I see where you're coming from, but like I said, I still think that's a big part of what they do. That's a big reason why we paid DeMarcus Lawrence all that money. It's because he's a great run stopper, even though he doesn't get as many sacks.
I know, but it should. I mean, again, the game's changed, and I love run stoppers. DeMarcus Lawrence, like you just mentioned, great run stopper. The pass rush is the most important thing. So I get what you're saying. I'm looking at these guys overall as defensive ends. But the main thing we have to factor in is the pass rush, because that's just how the game's played. You get what I'm trying to say? Like with let me see. If I'm looking at a guy like I have two quarterbacks in front of me. This is a hypothetical, by the way. But if I have two quarterbacks in front of me and they both have a great arm, right? But one guy can throw and run, similar to a Lamar Jackson. You're gonna go with the guy that can run and throw, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And with that being said, that's because of how the game has changed. And back in the day, it was just quarterback standing in the pocket. I think as the game changes, more things become more important. So I think that the pass rush is way more important than stopping the run. I guess
Okay,
that's how I'm kind of looking at it.
I get what you're saying, but even with your analogy, you're kind of saying like, oh, it's good to be good at both things rather than just being dominant at one thing. And so I think that's kind of where I'm coming from. Like, yeah, you're right. I do want a quarterback that can run and throw, but I also want a defensive end that can rush the passer and stop the run and impact the game in multiple ways. That's why you can't just dictate the best defensive ends by Googling top 5 leaders in sacks and then coming up you're making up your list with that. It's because you have to
Well,
kind of take
I didn't
into
do
it.
that because I had
No. I'm not. No, I'm just saying in
he's the
general.
league leader in sacks.
Yeah,
He wasn't number one.
yeah.
They
No.
the thing is that Aiden Hutchinson is good at stopping the run though. So what are we talking about?
I don't know. What are we talking? Because I think you're.
No, but that's what I'm trying to say, because
Yeah.
you're bringing your argument is fixed on Max Crosby being good at stopping the run more than Aiden Hutchinson, right? All I'm trying to say is that Aiden Hutchinson gets to the backfield better than Max Crosby does.
That's not my whole. I mean, I think just right now, if you were like, okay, right now, or I guess if we're looking at whatever, like right now, who would you rather have on your team for one game, Max Crosby or Aiden Hutchinson? I think Max Crosby is the answer. I would choose Trey Hendrickson over him as well. Aiden Hutchinson, I think he's going to get there, but he's still young. He can still make some mistakes. I don't know.
He made some big plays in the playoffs. I mean, I know he didn't play good in the NFC Conference Championship game.
Yeah.
And then here's the thing too, is that because we've kind of focused in on that, but also you have Trey Hendrickson over Nick Bosa, and so I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that as well.
Like I said, product of the team. I think if you put Trey Hendrickson on the 49ers, he's putting up similar or better numbers. If you're putting Nick Bosa on the Bengals, I don't think Nick Bosa is putting up Trey Hendrickson numbers and impacting the game that Hendrickson does. Nick Bosa is very talented, and he's got a strong demeanor. He's got a strong work ethic. But I think Trey Hendrickson is just a little bit better at those things than he is. And I just feel like the only reason why he's not as popular is just because he's playing in Cincinnati while Nick Bosa is playing in San Francisco.
I think we talked about it last episode, and with our whole Dak versus Jared Goff argument. And my main argument was, at the end of the day, you still have to make the throws. And I think with Nick Bosa, he does have a better defense. I'm not gonna, say you're wrong about that. But he still has to make the plays. And I think that we shouldn't like rank someone lower just because they have a better team. You know what I mean? I think that I'm thinking kind of back to like Patrick Mahomes, for example. He is and this is before I'm talking back when he had Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and all those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he won a Super Bowl, so he's still doing well, but I feel like he carried the team more this last Super Bowl than he did that one, right? we can't say that Patrick Mahomes wasn't number one back then because he had all those offensive weapons. You know what I mean? I don't think we shouldn't like rank someone lower just because they have more help. I don't think that, uh, when KD was with the Warriors, KD was still a top 10 player in the league just because he was with the Warriors. I mean, I think we both like thought that sucked that all those guys grouped up together, but he was still out there dropping great games, having great stats, winning championships. He still had to go out and do it, I guess is my point. So I think with Nick Bosa, I don't want to rank him lower just because he has a better defense. You get what
I
I mean?
got you. I
But
mean, that's
I do respect that Trey Hendrickson is yeah, he's the best defensive player for the Bengals. So I understand the argument, but you can make the argument that Nick Bosa is the best defensive player for the Niners. No, who's
Fred,
the
Fred Warner is the best, and I would argue Greenlaw is better.
You think he was better 2 years ago?
Fred Warner being better
I
than
think you're
Bosa.
basing a lot of the Nick Bosa stuff on last year.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, okay, let's not take a look at stats. I mean, kind of just injury history as well. Nick Bosa is, he gets pretty much, I mean, there's always an injury with him or he's out for a few games, every year as well. So I think kind of just looking at that, that definitely took a factor into my rankings as well. So, I mean, just different things. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. Nick Bosa is one of the best defensive ends in the league. He was my honorable mention. So but that's kind of where I'm coming from, like why Hendrickson was ranked ahead. Do you want to talk about Micah and Myles Garrett, and then we can move on?
We'll move to them. I was just going to say because we never followed up. He has Eric Armstead on the defense.
Eric Armstead.
The defensive line, they do have some playmakers, but I still hold on to the argument that he still has to make the plays. But yeah, we'll go into the Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett stuff. So, and sorry, before I leave that alone, Nick Bosa did go to 2 Super Bowls too. I know he had a great team, but Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, you're making the argument that Myles Garrett over Micah Parsons based off of playoff performance. Okay.
I mean, not off.
Not just your arguments, maybe not the main one, but tell me more of your arguments for that.
Not just playoff performance, but just impact on the game. I mean, I feel like it's not as extreme as it was. And if he didn't retire, he'd probably be number one on my list. But Aaron Donald, I feel like Myles Garrett has kind of a similar effect where he's getting double teamed, almost triple teamed every play. The defense has to know where he is at all times. The same thing with Micah. It's just I feel like we see it more consistently with Myles Garrett. Whereas with Micah, and this may be just a product of us or me watching every game of Parsons and just actually kind of knowing, but I just think
you're able to be more critical because you watch.
Yeah. He's just capable of so much more, I feel like sometimes, and sometimes there's just some meat left on the bone with him, and I just feel like his attitude off the field, that kind of took into consideration as well. Like it seems like he has a very passive, like, oh, it wasn't me, like it was my teammates, or stuff like that, where maybe he's correct, but I would still like to see some more maturity, some more responsibility from him. As a homer, I do think he's going to be the best defensive end, and maybe in a couple of years if he stays on the right trajectory. But right now, if you're asking me who I'd rather have for next year, Myles Garrett or Micah Parsons, it's tough, but I think I would take Myles Garrett.
Okay. Here, like when it comes to the playoff performance, I can't really argue. But to be fair, and you were talking about team performance, the whole team hasn't been prepared these last couple of years when it comes to the Cowboys.
Fair.
And I'm about to read you some stats, and it's actually gonna blow your mind when I read it to you. So combined tackles, this is Michael Parsons, and I'll do Myles Garrett. Combined tackles 64, assisted tackles 28, sacks 14. Myles Garrett 42. He had like 20 less combined tackles. 42 combined tackles, 9 assisted tackles, 14 sacks. They had the same sacks. The year before that, Michael Parsons, 65 combined, 23 assisted, 13.5 sacks. Myles Garrett, 60 combined, 23 assisted, and then he had 16 sacks. So he had an amazing year the year before last. So I think that when it comes to again, it kind of goes into the whole ceiling thing, right? So I think that when it comes to consistency, it's hard to argue that or Miles Garrett hasn't been consistent, right? These last couple of seasons, and I've talked about how consistent he is, and that's why he's my number two. If I'm looking at last season, it's just crazy. He had 20 more combined sacks, and then he had 19 more assisted tackle or 20 more combined tackles than Miles Garrett, and then he had 19 more assisted tackles than Miles Garrett. What does that tell me? They have the same amount of sacks too. What does that tell me? That means that Micah Parsons is all over the field, man. All over the field. And you just said you like your guy to be able to do a little bit of everything, right? He pass rushes, he drops back in coverage. I saw a few games where he's guarding a wide receiver. This dude is a hybrid defender, man. And I've never seen something like him. It's just crazy how the things that he's capable of doing. So I like Miles Garrett a lot. I mean, I have him number two for a reason. He is a dog, man. And he's a lot of fun to watch. I love his footwork. I think he's strong. I think he's explosive. I just think that Micah Parsons, man, is just incredible. He's all over the field. I'll watch a Cowboys game, right? And a lot of the times he's either tackling or assisting tackling. He'll chase you down. And he's the young lion for a reason because he'll hunt you down, man. Like you're a gazelle in the wild. So I'm gonna take Miles Garrett, man. Or Michael Parsons. I'm gonna take Michael Parsons.
No, I mean, I can't disagree with what you said. I mean, I love Micah. I mean, all for all the reasons you listed. He's one of a kind. He's one of a kind. He can do everything on the field. But just pure defensive end, I feel like if you were to go in a lab and make your perfect, we're going to talk about the perfect wide receiver, but I feel like if you were going to go in a lab and make your perfect defensive end, he's going to look like Miles Garrett, like, just size, speed, dominant ability.
Look like him because he is bigger than Michael Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, but and honestly, that's a big part. I think one of the things why Micah does kind of fall a little bit short towards the end of the year is because he's just not yet used to being hit on every single play. Excuse me, because you have to take into account, like, he was a linebacker at Penn State. He was a linebacker in high school. And he wasn't used to getting hit and being engaged with a lineman on every single play. And so I think early in the year, he's fresher, he's quicker, he's able to get around, he's able to play more physical. And then towards the end of the year, he kind of drops off. Whereas Miles Garrett, he's used to that. He's rushing the passer, he's stopping the run, he's doing all those things. And so Micah is quicker, he's faster, he can play multiple positions. But when I'm looking at, this is who I want to start my defensive line with, this is who I want to build my team around. I mean, Micah can do everything, but if you're just talking about pure defensive end, I would take Miles.
that's fair. I understand those arguments.
Yeah.
I think I look at it, and here's the thing. I know he's bigger, right? But he had the highest win rate when it comes to a double team, man, in the NFL. That's just that means he's unstoppable pretty much. And then he had the higher tackle totals, and they had the same amount of sacks. So I think that, and I feel like I can put him anywhere. Shoot, I might try him out as safety. Like, this dude's like amazing, right?
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying with Miles Garrett. Like I said, I had them. I want to say almost neck and neck. I mean, they're just both. You can't go wrong with either, right? So we'll kind of leave it there.
Definitely.
Let me see. So moving on, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he went on the Pivot podcast this week, and he discussed with the guys there about his perfect wide receiver. You know the Pivot podcast? Have you ever listened to that?
I did listen. I listened to it.
Yeah, Ryan Clark and former NFL players, Ryan Clark, Fred Taylor, and Channing Crowder. Well, Amon-Ra St. Brown was he decided to make his make a wide receiver, right, based off of speed, strength, stuff like that. So he said that his perfect wide receiver would have the speed of Tyreek Hill or Randy Moss, size of Calvin Johnson, the feet of Chad Ochocinco, which I see that dude had amazing feet, really quick feet, hands of Larry Fitzgerald, and the toughness of Hines Ward. I think that's an amazing wide receiver. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, the hands of Larry Fitzgerald, I think he dropped less passes than some crazy stat about how he barely dropped any passes. But yeah, that's a Madden receiver right there. That's a 99 overall.
When I was a kid, I watched Larry Fitzgerald as a wide receiver damn near carry that Cardinals team to the Super Bowl, man. Like this dude is crazy.
Yeah.
And he makes a lot of clutch plays. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create our perfect wide receiver. Okay. And we're gonna base it off of name. So we're gonna have to have a perfect name for our wide receiver. So we're gonna add a few attributes to our player: speed, size, feet, route running, football knowledge, because that's important, right? Making, smart plays, smart moves, and stuff like that. Hands, toughness, off field life, because off field life is important. We've seen the fall of a lot of great wide receivers because of off field life. Records and awards, and then kickoff, punt return. Okay. So I kind of want to make it interesting for us. I'm going to see what you think about this. I don't want to use any of the wide receivers Amon-Ra St. Brown used. You want to try that and see? So he used
All right.
Tyreek Hill, Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, Chad Ochocinco, Larry Fitzgerald, and Hines Ward, just to make it interesting, make it a little bit difficult. Fair?
Yeah, on my list, I had current NFL players only. So just to challenge myself a little bit. So no.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So no past, and there would have been some, but I wanted to do current NFL players. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yo, I didn't get the memo for that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Don't
all
worry.
right. Okay. So let's look at name. What do you have for name, man?
Name, I went with one of the coolest names, Jamar Chase. You got everybody chasing after you. If that's not the perfect wide receiver name, I don't know what is. He's on the chase. I think one of his touchdowns a couple years ago, he was like just running past the defenders, and I think it was like Romo's team, Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, and he was like, "Chase is on the chase." It's just a perfect name.
That's awesome.
It's a perfect receiver name. What about you?
Well, I put Golden Tate first because Golden, like he's the golden child. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And then I don't know why you're probably going to disagree with this one. I've always liked Keyshawn Johnson. Yeah, like that just seems like a strong. That just seems like a strong name. Yeah. But,
No.
Yo, I love the argument you made. I think we're gonna go with Jamar Chase because, like you said, just the idea of they're chasing behind you. I love it.
All right, good.
All right, so we got Jamar Chase. Number 2, speed. So I went with Deshaun Jackson. He ran a 4.35 40-yard dash. So I tried to find somebody close to Tyreek Hill. And I remember, if you look at his highlight tape, some of his kickoff returns and stuff, this dude is really fast. I remember one where he won a game against the Giants back when he was with the Eagles. And he was just stopping and going. So I think I like the speed, but I like the quickness as well. Who do you go with?
That's a great pick. If I had been doing kind of all time players, I think that he would have been in consideration. For me, current players, I did Jaylen Waddle, his teammate, Tyreek Hill's teammate in Miami. Man, the two of them. The only thing with Waddle, he's pretty injury riddled as a former fantasy owner of my boy Jaylen Waddle. Man, that'll be we should do that for our podcast, like fantasy draft or something. But
we should invite everybody on. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. But I went with Waddle. But I think for us right now, I think Deshaun Jackson, man, he was a speedster.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I haven't seen a lot of Miami Dolphins games.
Yeah.
But I think with Deshaun Jackson, just the ability to just go full speed and stop suddenly is just crazy. But all right, so we're gonna go with Deshaun Jackson with speed. Okay, next size. Who do you put for size?
DK Metcalf.
Man,
the absolute unit. Huge player. I don't know his exact. I think he's 6'5", 6'6", but built like a unit. And I think we've all seen the pictures of DK. We know his size. So, and just that speed along with that size, man, he can be unstoppable.
I feel sorry for the cornerbacks that have to guard him, or the safeties. If he breaks the cornerback and is coming at you full speed, I wouldn't want to tackle that guy. I went with this is a throwback. Calvin Benjamin from the Carolina Panthers. He played with
that's like Oh yeah, no, that's like speed for the worst NFL receiver for Calvin Benjamin.
Yeah, but man, if we're talking about size though, this dude had ridiculously long arms. and great size. I thought he was going to be a great wide receiver when he was drafted. And
Yeah.
he had like he was I don't want to say he was terrible. He's pretty solid. I think he just never met his ceiling. I want to go with DK Metcalf though, man, because DK
Yeah.
Metcalf is just like a machine. I can't argue
Yeah.
against that. We have a good back and forth going right now. Because
Yeah.
yeah, you've had number one, I've had number two, you've had number three so far. Feet. I'm gonna go with Cole Beasley, man. Cole Beasley he be putting them in the bins, the blender, yo. So I said Cole Beasley. I really like his feet. I like how back when we played with the Cowboys, he was really always open, man. I don't know. He
Yeah.
would get himself open.
Yeah.
Who would you go with?
Yeah, I mean feet and route running. I mean, yeah, I miss having Cole Beasley on the team.
Yeah.
I went with so just kind of another thing that I was trying to do. So on my list, I did all current players, but I also tried not to repeat the same player for either
Awesome.
one.
Yeah. Me
So
too.
this was one of my casualties. I wanted to put another player on here, but I put them for another thing. But for route running, or sorry, for feet, I went with Debo. Just so elusive. Obviously, he misses. He makes defenders miss. As a receiver, as a running back, super elusive, quick. He's very twitchy. He's maybe not the fastest player, but he's very twitchy. And had him on my fantasy team a couple years ago. Man, he carried. Or was it last year? I think it was last year because he fell to me and I was like, he's gonna have a good year. I think it was pretty solid.
He's
But
pretty solid.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went with Debo for feet.
Yeah, I think that Debo Samuel, he's really valuable for the Niners because you can line him up as a wide receiver, you can line him up as a running back, right? Like you're talking about. So yeah, excellent player. I think I'm
That's a
gonna
tough one.
hold steady to Cole Beasley. You want to flip a coin?
All right. I don't have a coin. Do you have a coin? If you want to go, let's go with Cole. Let's go with Cole Beasley.
You cool with Cole?
I'm cool with Cole.
Okay, man.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Shoot. Yo, quick ad. I've been reading The Art of War, getting ready for these debates. Like, oh, you can't even yeah, getting ready for these debates. I'm trying to say I'm trying to win some of these arguments, I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah.
Number 5, route running. Who do you got?
I went with Amari Cooper, one of the route running gods. Just super agile. The big thing on him was that he knew how to run routes, but he just dropped a lot of passes earlier in his career. I think he's gotten a little bit better with that. I can't believe we traded him away for a 5th round pick. I'm still kind of upset about that. Imagine if we had Amari and CD right now. But
that was one of the craziest things.
I know.
I can't believe that.
I know.
But yeah, go ahead.
But like I said, current players, I would there's not a lot of people I would take Amari over with. I was debating Stephon Diggs for this one as well. But I think Cooper just gets the nod just because I think he just runs very smooth. Like you just look at him, he's smooth, man.
Yeah, he posted some big games. We follow fantasy. He had a few 50-pointers, right? Didn't he have like 2? Yeah. So another guy who can get open. It doesn't really matter who the quarterback is. I mean, I'm not saying Joe Flacco's bad, but Joe Flacco came in, Deshaun Watson was in. This guy just gets open. So yeah, I think that's a great pick. CeeDee Lamb for me and Justin Jefferson. CeeDee Lamb is a great route runner. Justin Jefferson is a great route runner, right? I think with Justin Jefferson too, what adds to his route running is that he could have 3 people on him and you can just throw the ball anywhere and this guy is just gonna make a crazy catch. So I'm gonna maybe take him out just because we can maybe use him for hands, maybe. CeeDee Lamb, great route runner, but I don't know, man. I think you're right. I think Amari Cooper's probably the better route runner. So yeah, I mean, CeeDee Lamb, I think, is the better wide receiver overall, but I think I'm gonna go with Amari Cooper.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So we both agree on that one. Football knowledge. I went with, this is maybe gonna shock you. I went with Travis Kelce. He's not even a wide receiver, yo. I went with Travis Kelce because I remember this play last year and it got overturned where he caught the ball, right? And they were tackling him, and then he just threw it behind him. He makes plays like that keeps the ball alive. This dude is smart, And there's a lot of times where it's a broken play, and he just gets open in the middle of the field for Patrick Mahomes. So I went with Travis Kelce.
All right, I like it. I don't know. I don't know. We were able to do tight ends. I wasn't. I
Hey,
wasn't made
let's
aware.
make the rules as we go, man. It's more fun that way.
Pass catchers. No, I like it, man. Yeah, try. I mean, to play with Mahomes, you need to be like on a certain like smart list. Sorry, it's like smart IQ level. And
Right.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
definitely right. Like he has that. With smarts, I was having a tough time with this one just because I mean I feel like to be a football player, like you need to be smart. You need to have some football IQ.
Right.
But
Yeah.
for this one, I went with the person, the inspiration behind this debate, Amon-Ra St. Brown. When you look at Amon-Ra, the sun god, he's not the fastest, he's not the biggest, he's not the you look at him and he's not going to overwhelm you a lot with his physicality, but he just knows how to get open. And
Right.
he made an amazing, wide receiver list, football knowledge right there. But whenever you just look at him play, man, I just you just know that like, okay, he knows where he needs to be. He knows how to get open without overextending himself physically, without needing to be the biggest or the fastest guy on the field.
Yeah, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was the best player on my fantasy team last year, and he was really carrying he carried my team to the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah,
So love the guy. I think I'm gonna hold true to my Travis
I, I agree
Kelsey
with you.
pick.
I agree with you.
You
Yeah.
agree with it? Okay, cool.
Perfect pass catchers.
All right, so just so for those following along, we have name, we have Jamar Chase, speed, we have Deshaun Jackson, size, DK Metcalf. So he has the speed of Deshaun Jackson and the size of DK Metcalf. So that guy's
Yes,
just gonna run
sir.
over you. Feet, Cole Beasley, route running, Amari Cooper, and now the football knowledge of Travis Kelsey. Okay, so now we're going into hands. For hands, I did another throwback. Uh, I said, God, I feel like I'm showing bias, but I went with a few guys, and then we'll get your pick in a second. Uh, Jason Witten always made really tough catches, right? I remember
Mhm.
guys would like run into him and he would still make the catch. Michael Irving, amazing when it came to the slant, and you have to be really brave, especially nowadays the NFL, but back then too, to catch a slant across the middle. Chris Carter was really tough. He made a lot of tough catches. Um, Odell Beckham Jr.'s hand when he made that like one-handed catch, like what I'm trying to say, that was pretty amazing. I put Antonio Brown too. I think that Antonio Brown made some ridiculous catches back when he was with the Steelers. So I have a list of guys here that we can kind of discuss. Who'd you go with?
Who's your official pick for that one?
Oh, you want me to narrow it down? Best hands. I think I'll stay with Michael Irvin.
Michael Irvin. All right, let's go. Let's go. Um,
Well,
I went with.
actually, let me go back on that because we can use Michael Irving for toughness, maybe. I'm gonna
Okay.
stay with
Okay.
Jason Witten, actually. I'll go with Jason Witten.
All right, Jason. All right, I like it, man. One of the best Cowboys of all time. For hands, I went with, and you could really put him for a lot of a lot of these categories. Is Justin Jefferson, just really
Man,
short-handed.
yeah.
I would say definitely top three wide receivers. I think on my list, maybe that's a tough one, but I would say he's one of the best ones, if not the best one. But yeah, short-handed doesn't. I mean, he has a lot of targets, so he may drop some here and there, but for the tough catches he makes, and I remember that one last year where it was just, I think it was towards the very end, and it was like one-handed, and man, he's just insane. So I think just hands, tough catch making ability, I'd go Justin Jefferson over anyone currently.
Hey, honestly, I can't argue with that. I mean, the one-handed catches are just ridiculous. So
Yeah,
hands are
yeah.
going with Justin Jefferson. Toughness, I put Michael Irving, like I just told
Hmm.
you,
Hmm.
and I put Terrell Owens. I remember Terrell Owens played a Super Bowl with
Hmm.
I think he had a broken
Broken
leg,
leg.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Really tough guy. I think I'll stick with Michael Irving though. Who'd you put?
For Jefferson, I put CD Lamb. We watched
Oh,
the
really?
games
Okay.
together. Man, dude, we see the hits that he takes, and I always think he's gonna stay down or whatever, but he just gets up. He does that little the nose celebration that he does, and yeah, I just feel like he's super tough, man. I remember when he got drafted, I was like, man, I hope he's not injury, riddled. He's pretty skinny.
Right.
He's not super big. But man, yeah, he gets up, he takes a tough hit, but he gets right back up, and I don't even know if he's missed any games like He's been a Cowboy for like what 3-4 years now. I
If
can't
if he
like
if he
I
did, it's under like
yeah,
3.
like a yeah. So I mean, I mean, I feel like he's tough. And yeah, I mean, he just always gets. I just feel like I see him take the nastiest hits, and he just gets right back up. So,
I know. I need to
and like I
look
said, I was just doing current. So
right. Of course, I think I
yeah,
need to look into that because it'd be interesting to see his points after reception. Because yeah, I've noticed that he'll get hit, he'll make a spin move, he'll get out of it. Right.
I
He's
think
very elusive. Go ahead.
I think he led the league in yard. Oh, and I was debating him for feet because he's really elusive. And I was debating him for that one, but I went with Debo for feet and then CD Lamb for toughness. But yeah, I think last year he definitely led the league in yards after catch.
Yeah. What's it called? Is it
And
yards after reception or yards after catch? I think it's yards after catch. Actually, I think you're right.
yeah, I think it's the yak, the
The
YAC,
yak.
the
Uh,
yak.
I think out of respect to the legend, let's go Michael Irvin, man.
All right, let's go. Yeah, I mean, tough as can get.
Yeah, he came before, so we'll go ahead and go with him. Off field life, would you go with? So off field life, I want to see a nice family. I want to see some Walter Payton Man of the Year awards. Who'd you go with?
Yeah, so last year, Terry McLaurin was nominated for the Commanders for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. He did a lot of off-field work, charity work, and work with the youth. And so I don't think a receiver has won the Walter Payton Man of the Year award besides
Ooh,
Fitzgerald, I think won.
no, because I'm
Um,
about to tell you mine here in a second.
okay, okay. But just basing it off current players, I went
Yeah,
with
of
Terry
course.
McLaurin. Yeah,
I love Terry McLaurin. Yeah, he's a really nice guy. I hate that he's with our enemies, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
off field life, I went with I went with two guys, and we can maybe choose from you can help me choose which one to go with. Anquan Bolden, who's a
Okay.
wide receiver. Yeah, he won a Walter Payton Man of the Year award, and he used to he's just an amazing leader and a great guy to have in the locker room. He led Bible studies in the locker room. He did community outreach, so he's just an amazing role model for young athletes. And then this is kind of random, but I went with Steve Largent because Steve Largent, he has a wife, he has kids, 4 children and a wife. So, he has the family. Won a Walter Payton Man of the Year award. I think out of those two, I think I'm leaning towards Anquan Bolden, right? Do you agree?
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we got Anquan Bolden, and then who is yours? Terry McLaurin.
So Terry McLaurin. Yeah,
It's kind of tough because they're both
yeah, yeah.
amazing. You want to flip on
Let's
it?
go. No, let's go with Bolden. Walter Payton. Man. You say he won the Walter Payton Man of the Year. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Let's go with
did
Bolden.
Terry McLaurin win or was he a nominee?
I think he was just a nominee. I don't think he won.
Oh, well, we'll go with the winner then, I guess,
Yeah,
on that one.
yeah, yeah.
Number 10, records and awards. Okay, you're going current, so this is kind of unfair. I said
Yeah.
Jerry Rice.
Was he not on the? Was he not on the
No,
original list?
he wasn't. I was surprised.
Oh wow, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think. I mean, I think. I mean, obviously, Jerry Rice has all the all the records, all the awards.
Who'd you go with though?
I went with Cooper Cup. A couple of years ago, he had like really record breaking year.
Good
I think
pick.
he led the league in like yards, catches, and touchdowns. It was like a triple crown for a receiver, and that hadn't been done in a
He's the first
while.
wide receiver to have a Super Bowl MVP, right? He has to be.
Yeah, I think so, or one of the first for
God, that's a
sure.
good pick, man. Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, I think it's tough to beat Jerry Rice on that one.
I know. That was kind of unfair on that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Nah, you good,
Cooper
you good.
Cup, amazing pick.
Yeah,
Number 11. God, this is kind of unfair too because you're doing current.
yeah.
I win Devin Hester, obviously.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Let's not even argue about that one. Yeah, Devin Hester for sure.
All right. But just for my interest, who do you go with?
I went with Xavier Gibson from the Jets. He had a couple of touchdowns last year. I don't know if you remember when Aaron Rodgers got hurt last year. They won on a kickoff or punt return touchdown. I think Gibson was the guy for that. But he's
Yeah.
very fast, very quick. I think he's one of the top returners in the league right now.
All right. Well, it should. I think we just made the greatest wide receiver of all time. His name is Jamar Chase. He has the speed of Deshaun Jackson, the size of DK Metcalf, the feet of Cole Beasley, the route running of Amari Cooper, the football knowledge of Travis Kelce, in the music knowledge, maybe he's a Swiftie. Number 7, he has the hands of Justin Jefferson, the toughness of Michael Irvin. He has the off-field life of Anquan Bolden, the records and awards of Jerry Rice, and then the kickoff punt return of Devin Hester, man. I think we just created a beast. What do you think?
Man, that sounds like I'm about to go and hop on Madden right now and create him, man. He sounds wish I could draft him, right? It's
I know
fantasy,
for
but
real.
yeah, yeah.
The Cowboys, we need that number 2 wide receiver, but
Oh yeah.
so something kind of weird happened when it comes to the USA men's team. So the Olympics are coming up, and Kawhi Leonard was sent home this week from the USA basketball team after reports that he's still dealing with some injury issues, and I think the Clippers wanted him to come back, not take the risk. So he was replaced with Boston Celtics guard Derrick White. Uh, Instantly, everyone was talking about how Jaylen Brown was snubbed. Jaylen Brown, an amazing player, Finals MVP. He was a big part of that championship run. Um, should was why was Jaylen Brown apparently snubbed? And do you think he should have been the replacement?
I think it's all about fit, especially with the USA basketball team. I think they probably thought that they had enough scorers already. I mean, when you have LeBron and Curry, Anthony Edwards, Embiid, I mean, you have a lot of those players already that need the ball in their hands, that are ready to score at any time, right? And so what I think they were really looking for is players that can defend, players that can make open shots, players that can handle the ball if to give somebody a rest. And I think a player that fits all those attributes is Derrick White. I mean, we saw him a little bit too much during the finals about a month ago, but Derrick White, I mean, I feel like he made every three whenever he got the ball in his hands. He was just ready to shoot at all times, defended at a high level despite his size. Like I said, he's a point guard, so he can handle the ball. So I think it's apparent what the USA basketball team did. I think they just went with fit over best player available, which is pretty insane because not having the reigning finals MVP on your team is a pretty crazy statement to go with. But I think it's the right one, especially with the team that they have now. They have enough scorers already. Jaylen Brown, obviously, we know he's a good scorer. He's an amazing defender. But I think Derrick White is just be able to do the things that the USA basketball team needs more on a consistent basis, which is to defend and make open 3-pointers. Because he's going to have that opportunity. If you have a team of Curry, Booker, Edwards, LeBron, and Embiid, you're going to be needing to leave somebody open. And so I think teams would choose to leave White open. I think White is going to be able to make down more open 3-pointers and defend at a higher level than Jaylen Brown. So I think they made the correct call.
This is going to be interesting. I completely disagree with you, man. I think that it's just ridiculous to me that the best player on a championship team is, especially if you have 3 of your teammates already a part of the USA basketball team, for him not to be there is just crazy to me. I mean, they have Drew Holiday. The USA men's basketball team has Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, and they now have Derrick White. Jaylen Brown was a big part of that championship team. He was the finals MVP, and he's not a part of the team. That's just crazy to me. So 2 things happen. It's either he didn't want to, or it's maybe political. And let me explain in a second. So when it comes to him not wanting to, I know that he took a what's the name? The trip to Mecca. What is that called?
The Hajj.
Yeah, he took his Hajj. So I know he was overseas, but still I think he was back because he was at the ESPYs. So it's not like I don't know if they thought he was going to be gone for a long time or something, or maybe he didn't want to. He thought he was going to be gone for a while. So I'm really confused about that. So if it was his choice, like that he didn't want to join the team, I understand. But let's think about it wasn't his choice. They chose Derrick White over him. Okay, I hear your arguments. Derrick White, great defender. Jaylen Brown is an amazing defender. A big part of the reason why he won the Finals MVP is because of his defensive capabilities. I'm a big Mavs fan. You're a big Mavs fan. He was giving Luka problems, man. He was frustrating him when it comes to his defense and his defensive pressure. Okay, so like when it comes to Derrick White and Jaylen Brown, I'm taking Jaylen Brown defensively any day. When it comes to offensively, I'm taking Jaylen Brown any day. Derrick White, he shoots better. So, yeah, but Jaylen Brown, I mean, I'm looking at his percentages. He shoots like what, like 30.39 from three. I mean, it's not terrible, you know? So I think that, and then again, he's replacing Kawhi Leonard, who's a forward. He's kind of like a guard, like a wing, you know? I just don't understand it. So that kind of gets into my reasoning of why maybe it's political. I know that Nike is the one that's, over the USA men's basketball team, right? And I know that we're Mavs fans. They had that issue with Kyrie Irving, which, ESPN hopped on and attacked Kyrie Irving. That was part of, his story. Jaylen Brown came out and defended Kyrie, right? So in my opinion, I think it's more Jaylen Brown spoke out, so he can't be a part of it. That's where I'm coming from, because it just doesn't make sense that you're the best player on your NBA basketball team. 3 of your teammates are on the team and you're not.
No, I hear you 100%. I mean, it is pretty crazy that he's the only one. You got Drew, you got White, and you got Tatum that are on the team, but not him. But like I said, I mean, I think it's more about the fit. I think they wanted a guard that could defend. Kind of just looking at their team, because this is their team right now. Is it okay if I just list them really quickly?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So for their centers, they have Bam, Davis, Anthony Davis, and Embiid. For their forwards, they have Kevin Durant, LeBron, and Tatum. And then for their guards, they have Derrick White, Drew Holiday, Halliburton, and Edwards, and Curry, and Booker. So they have a lot of guards, and I hear your argument where they could have gotten a forward. But I think their coach is Steve Kerr, and he was on the Warriors. Warriors, we know, are pretty guard heavy. They like to run a lot of fluidity. They don't want a lot of, I would say, ball dominant players. They probably thought that they already had a lot of that. They have LeBron, they have Curry, they have Tatum, they have these players
Brown's not really ball dominant though.
But if you're having a player that's standing in the corner and shooting a three, would you rather have that be Jaylen Brown, or would you rather have that be Derrick White? Derrick White is also, I'm pretty sure he was close to 50, 40, 90. I don't know his field goal or free throw percentage, but better free throw shooter, better 3-point shooter. I would say that for his size, like pound for pound, I would say that Derrick White is probably a smarter and a better defender than Brown, or White is a better defender than Brown. That could be debated. But I think on the national level, you probably have a lot of players that are quicker, that are faster, maybe not as much of a size problem, but more of a speed problem. And I think Derrick White would be able to handle that better. Now, who's the better player? I think obviously we're both going to agree that it's Brown. But who's the better fit for the team? I do think it's White, because I hear you, and it makes sense. At first, I was like, wow, they didn't choose the Finals MVP. But kind of reading up about it, kind of diving deeper into it, I think it's a smart decision having White, who's able to, who's already sacrificed, being a part, having a smaller role and being a part of a championship team. Whereas, maybe Brown would want to have more of a power struggle, take some shots that maybe some other players should have been taking rather than him.
If you had, and this is going to seem crazy, but bear with me. If you had Kawhi Leonard left and you had the option between Derrick White, who's an amazing player and he's a role player, right? Or Michael Jordan, you're taking Michael Jordan. It doesn't care about the fit. You're always going to take the better player. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, he was the best player on that championship team. 3 players from that team, except for him, are on the team, man. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's deeper than that, yo. I think he said some things that they didn't agree with, even though we have freedom of speech in this country, and he didn't make the team. That's what I think, because it doesn't make sense. You're always going to take the best player available. So
I don't think so.
I understand your arguments for a fit, but like I said, so okay, so if you had Derrick White or Michael Jordan, you're taking Derrick White.
Well, that's pretty unfair.
Yeah,
No. You're comparing Brown to Michael Jordan. That's
no, I'm
basically
trying
what
to
you're
tell
doing.
you, you're always gonna take the better player. This is the thing. Derrick White is a great player. Is he on Jaylen Brown's like level like that? What do you think? Be honest.
I mean, they're both really good players. Like I mentioned earlier, I think Brown is the better player, but I think fit for the USA basketball team. It's like, okay, I don't know. If you have like all these strengths as a basketball player,
Jaylen Brown has the same
no,
strengths. You keep on talking about defense. He plays better defense than Derrick White, don't you think?
okay, so defense is equal or Brown's a little bit better, right? Like, well, okay, I'll give you that. All right,
Yeah, that's my
but
whole point.
okay. Ball handling, who's
Okay,
better?
well, Derrick White.
Shooting, who's better?
Derrick White.
What does the USA basketball team need? They need people that can handle the ball, relieve some of the pressure off their stars. Hey, Curry is tired. Curry's 35. Hey, LeBron's tired. LeBron's 39.
Well, okay, if you're making that argument, I think Kyrie said no. Then why didn't they take Kyrie then? Kyrie shoots
Does he?
better and he's better ball handler. They didn't take Kyrie. You know what
Hey,
I'm trying to say?
I would love Kyrie on the team.
But to be fair, Kyrie said no. But it's just crazy to me that you have three players from this championship team. They're on the USA men's basketball team. He's the Finals MVP, and he's not on the team.
Okay,
That's what I'm trying to say.
okay.
I don't even think it's basketball because like you're always going to take the better player. I'm bringing the 2017 Warriors back into this, man. So you're telling me you're gonna have a USA men's basketball team, and then because of fit, you're gonna have Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, and no Kevin Durant? Like, come on now, man. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have the best player from the NBA team on the team. It's like they just dismissed them. They totally snubbed them. I just think it's ridiculous. We're speculating. I don't know if he didn't want to go. I don't know if something happened. Maybe he just wants to focus on their next championship. But if he did want to go and they refused, I think it's for different reasons. That's my whole argument. But I do understand your argument because I mean he's a great ball handler, great shooter. I mean, you don't want to leave him open, and we learned that the hard way.
I mean, I'm not saying that he shouldn't be on the team. Like Jaylen Brown is one of the best players. I think he's better than Tatum. I mean, I think you probably would say the same thing, that he's better than Jason Tatum. So it's not a question. It's not a question of, does he deserve to be on the team? Right now, you're asking me, the team is currently slated, however it's slated to be. Did they make the right decision? I'm not going to say they made the wrong decision, choosing getting Derrick White. I think they're still going to win gold. I think they would have won gold if they chose Brown or if they chose White. But I think White just gives something else different that the USA basketball, I think, would be. And you have to think this is more of an Olympic setting, so it's going to be a little bit different. The court gets smaller; it becomes harder to score because I think the defenders can stay in the paint forever, however long they want. Brown's whole game is built a lot on slashing, and so if Brown was unable to slash or drive to the paint because the paint is all buckled up, you could take away a lot of his game. Derrick White, he doesn't require that. Like his ego, he's not going to want to go out and try to score the ball. He's going to be wanting to defend, pass, shoot, do the things that makes him great. Too,
but I agree though. I think that he doesn't need the ball in his hands. But yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off. It's just we have to move on. Let me say this, and we'll kind of end it like this. We're arguing about two guys, Derrick White, Jaylen Brown, about who should take the spot. They're in an incredible position. They had an amazing year. So credit to both of those guys for the hard work that they put in, and congratulations on the championship. I wish it was us, but obviously they're both dynamic players. You can't go wrong really with either. I think, like you said.
Hey, I'm here for it. Jaylen Brown is getting mad now. Hopefully, there's a little bit of tension there, and the Celtics' demise can start. Maybe that's maybe that's what Steve Kerr's trying to do. Maybe it was all calculated.
Maybe that's what it is, man. Because I'm just trying to put this all together for me personally. But man, awesome debate. Okay, let's keep on moving on. Okay. We talked about it a little bit last podcast, and we said we wanted to do this. So just to kind of end the pod, let's go over our predictions for seeds or 1 through 15 in the Western Conference, like how everyone is going to finish the regular season, okay? And we'll go like I don't know how you want to do this. Do you want to like you go first and I go, like and we do 15 to 1, or do you want to go at the same time? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so like how about we break it down? We can do like 15 to 11, so that's non-playing teams, and then we can do 10 to 7, and that's playing teams, and then we can go 6 to 1. So you can go 15-11, I'll do 15-11, and then we can kind of just base it off there. What do you think?
I think that's awesome. Okay, let me get my pen out so I can make sure I get yours down.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Give me your 15 to 11.
Okay, I got 15. I got Trailblazers. I
All right,
think
same
that.
here.
Oh, cool. Okay, no argument on that then. Number 14, I have Jazz.
All right, same here.
30, yeah, 13. They're pretty obvious, right? The
Yeah.
bottom 13
Yeah.
Grizzlies. Uh,
Oh,
12. Oh, okay. 12 Spurs. And then 11 Warriors.
okay.
What do you got?
Um, I went 15 Trailblazers, 14 Jazz, 13 Spurs, 12 Rockets, and then 11 Lakers.
There's no way that the Rockets this year finish less than 10th, man.
But why?
Did you see
You
them
believe
last?
you,
Go ahead.
you believe in Jaylen Green that much? Like you believe in Şengün? Like
I
I mean,
do
they're gonna be a
actually.
good team. They're gonna be a good team, but I just
Last year, they made a crazy run for the play-in, and those two guys, when they're on, they're on. So I think they just have to work with their consistency. I have a lot of confidence in them. I think that they're well coached. They have Ime Udoka, you know what I'm trying to say? That dude is a great coach. And I love teams that are, and this is the thing, we got to think this is regular season. So I'm not even saying that the Rockets are, when you see my regular season standings, the whole list, I'll maybe break it down more. I'm trying to look for young teams that aren't going to get injured. Because the teams that I have in the top four doesn't necessarily mean they're the best four. Because think about last year, the Mavs made it to the finals. They were the fifth seed. You know what I mean? We got to look at
Mhm.
consistency throughout the season. But I don't see how the Rockets finish less than 10th, man. If I'm being honest with you, that run they had last year was crazy. Jalen Green, Sengun, right? Sengun.
Mhm.
Yeah, when they're on, man. So I don't know about that. Lakers, I'm down on the Lakers too. I think that they'll. It's really hard. I think they'll still make the play in. I don't think I'm done with them yet.
Okay, my biggest thing from that, the Grizzlies, 13, man.
Yeah,
Everybody's
what?
back. Everybody's
So,
back. Ja's back. Yo, they're starting five. They
so,
got Ja. They got Desmond Bain. They have
okay,
Marcus Smart, Jaren
yeah,
Jackson, Steve.
okay.
Dude, they got players, man. They at least they'll make the play in. They were a playoff team with Ja, and
If
now
they
I
were in
think
the
Ja's coming
Eastern,
back. Hell,
if they were in the Eastern Conference, sure. They're not. They're not better than these teams I have ahead of them, man. You got to think of a whole season too. They've had like injury issues. They had the issues off the court last year. I'm not seeing it. I have to see the first couple of games how they go, but no, they have to prove it because they at least maybe need another year because there's just been too much going on. I don't think they're just gonna come back and then bounce into the playoffs. If anything, they're like a playoff playing team is their ceiling, in my opinion.
but the Grizzlies have more proven players than the Rockets. I guess that's what I'm confused about. It's like the Grizzlies have this experience. They might be rusty at first, but you got Ja Morant, you have Desmond Bain, you have Jaren Jackson Jr., who's
So
the former Defensive Player of the Year. You have like a lot of solid role players: Gigi Jackson, Marcus Smart, Brandon Clark. You have like a lot of underrated players too last year that had to step up and they got that experience, like Aldama and Laravia. Like a lot of just solid role players. So I guess you're just kind of down on Ja. You don't think he can lead a team to the playoffs?
I like Ja a lot. I think that the thing is that based off of last year, that run when they almost made the play-in, the Rockets, they were really like they hit a really good streak. Do you remember that stretch of games?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
they were gelling, and you brought up Jalen Green a minute ago. When that dude is on, offensively, he is a problem, man. And so I
Okay.
think they're going to take a next step. You got to think these guys are young. They were making a run last year. I think they'll all take that step together as a young team. Okay. And again, they're really well coached. I think the Grizzlies coach is great, but Ime Udoka is amazing. And he was amazing with the Celtics. He was amazing last year. I think that, again, I think the Rockets have less injury concerns. They have less team chemistry concerns than the Grizzlies. Again, I think the Grizzlies ceiling is the play-in. I think the Rockets ceiling is a playoff team, and we'll talk about that more in just a second. You're going to be surprised. Since you were surprised by that, you're going to be surprised by how high I have the Rockets. But I want to remind you that there's at least two teams that always shock people every year. Okay?
Hmm.
So I'm just letting you know. Like the Timberwolves last year, no one thought that they were going to be like a top 3 seed. So I'm just saying.
I got you.
So,
I
all
got
right,
you.
do you want to continue?
Yeah. So
Oh, you
yeah.
go
Okay.
first.
Go
You
ahead.
go.
Yeah.
Or maybe I
Okay.
should go first, just not to confuse the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so 10 through what do you want to do? 10 through the play-in, 10 through 7?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it.
I have the Lakers. I have the Lakers at 10, the Clippers at 9, the Pelicans at 8, and then I have the Suns at 7. So I have the Lakers at 10. I don't think they made a lot of off-season adjustments. They didn't really add anything. I think that they have Anthony Davis, they have LeBron James. That'll be enough to at least get them in a play-in because LeBron James, he's shown his consistency, and I think that even at his age, he's still going to ball. Um, and number 9, I have the Clippers. I think that the Clippers, again, they lost Paul George, but I think they have enough of a team around Kawhi Leonard and James Harden to, again, at least make a play in. The Pelicans, I liked a lot of their offseason moves. They made the playoffs last year. I think they're going to stay at that 8 seed. And then I have the Suns. So I'm not really big on the Suns, but the thing is they have KD and Booker. So you have to mention them.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, we had some similar teams on that one. For me, I think I talked about it last pod, but I'm a little bit down on them this year. I think the Kings are my number 10 team, number 9 Clippers, number 8 Warriors, and then number 7 Pelicans for me. So I just don't think. And this is the same thing with the Rockets. Like I don't think like a team led by Şengün defensively. Like I don't think he can be a defensive anchor on a playoff team. And the same thing I think about Sabonis. I don't think Sabonis can be a playoff anchor a defensive anchor on a playoff team. And so if you look at that starting 5 for the Kings, you have De'Aaron Fox, you have Malik Monk, DeRozan, Keegan Murray, and Sabonis.
Sounds like an
Who
awesome
is the
team to me.
offensively? Who's gonna defend the likes of Luca, Anthony Edwards, Shea, maybe Keegan Murray? But then okay, let's go to second, best player. Who's guarding Kyrie? Who's guarding Jamal Murray?
There's a lot of offensive only minded teams that made it really far in the playoffs. I can go back only a few years. We could talk about the Houston Rockets. So I mean, I don't know why just because they might not be the best
But
defensive.
the Rockets had a good defensive team, though. I mean, besides Harden, they surrounded They surrounded Harden with good defenders. I mean, back then, I mean, Ariza was a good defender. Eric Gordon
Well,
was a good
I think
defender.
that's the thing though. I think like the game's really shifted to where teams are putting up like sometimes 160, like 100, like 165 points a night. I mean, I think that again,
And my,
I think it's about staying healthy. I think it's about consistency. They're coached by Mike Brown. I think that he's a great coach. They were the number 3 seed uh the year before last. So they've been a high seed
and
before.
and they
And let
got
me say,
first rounded.
let me say, well, again, this is regular season list, right? They were number 3 seed the year before last. And again, I know that the Western Conference has gotten better since then. Obviously, it's stronger last year than it was that year. I think that year, I think it was like a lot of injuries or something. It was really weird. I remember the Grizzlies, I think, were number 2. So I think that I think it's possible for them to be a top 4 seed because again, they've already done it and they're well coached. They're young. They added DeMar DeRozan. And you know what's crazy to me? We talked about this a little bit last pod. You put the Warriors over the Kings when you said that the Warriors lost Klay Thompson. They added Uh, uh, they added Buddy Hield and who was it? Kyle Anderson. And I said, "Oh, do you think they got better or worse?" You said, "Oh, they're about the same." The Kings have the same team, but they added DeMar DeRozan. I said, "Oh, do you think they got better or worse?" You're like, "Oh, they got better." Well, the Kings beat the Warriors in the play-in game. So what are we even talking about here? So how are they? How are the Warriors just so much better than the Kings?
I didn't say the Kings got better last pod. We talked about it, and I said I didn't really like that move with DeRozan. You really liked it, and I was saying that no, I don't think it's all that. I'm just looking at it from experience. I think the league is kind of starting to figure out the Kings a little bit. The Warriors, I guess I'm just a big believer in Curry and Green and their experience together. I think last year was tough on them, and I think Clay, even though he's on the Mavs now, he's probably a big part of that. He was shooting a lot. Maybe he wasn't his best self. So I think that they're going to play more openly, more freely now, and I think that'll be beneficial for the Warriors. And I think that's just something you got to remember. Like Curry is still Curry. They'll have Draymond Green. I think they're young players like Kaminga and Moses Moody and Brandon Podziemski. I think those players are really gonna step up in Clay's absence, and I think Buddy Hield and Kyle Anderson were really good ads as well. And
But but
so
but I guess I think the thing is like, do you think they got better or they stayed the same or got worse? What do you think? I'm just asking.
the Warriors,
Yeah.
I would say they stayed the same.
Okay. They lost to the Kings last year. So what do you
Mhm.
make of that?
I mean, if you want to base it off one play-in game, like sure you can do that. Uh, I mean they were pretty equal. I think they're going to be equal this year as well. I think the West is going to be really competitive this year. So even though like we have these teams, like I had the Kings, Lakers, Rockets 10, 11, 12. I think that's going to be really really close. Like how it was this past year. And I
Yeah.
think the play-in will be really close as well. So I think it'll just be a couple of games here and there. Maybe you're right. The Kings maybe will be a little bit better, but I think they're on the same tier. But if you're gonna give me a choice like Warriors or Kings, I'm gonna go with the team that has Steph Curry, that's led by a championship coach, and that has four championships together. So
I respect that. Six
yeah.
through one, we have I have Rockets at 6, which you obviously disagree with. I have Kings at 5, which you obviously disagree with. The Nuggets at 4, the Mavs at 3, the Timberwolves at 2, and the Thunder at 1. So if I could kind of explain,
Mhm.
Rockets 6, we've talked about them. I think that when they're on, they're on. They're a nightmare to guard. Segun's a walking double double. Jalen Green when he's on, he's the most like dynamic, like young guard, like in the league, honestly. When he's on, because like I said, he has to work on the consistency. And I think that I was just really impressed by that run they made last year. I know they in a way failed because they weren't able to get into the play in, but it was just remarkable that run, man. So I'm really excited for them. I think there's always two teams that surprise. I think the Rockets is one of those teams. And I think the other team is going to be the Kings. So like I mentioned earlier, you were pretty surprised that I had them this high, but I mean they've done it before. They were the top three. They were the number 3 seed a year before last, right? And I think that yeah, they struggled a little bit with the consistency because they are a young team. I talked about with the Rockets, but they got a veteran in DeMar DeRozan. I mean, this guy is not as good as he used to be, but he can still see he's a pretty consistent scorer, I think, even at his age. So defensively, are they going to have to work on some things? Yes, but they're coached by Mike Brown. I think they'll figure it out. They were a top seed before. Number 4, I have the Nuggets. We talked about this last pod. I think that the Nuggets did absolutely nothing to get better, but they have Jokic, so you can't really argue against that, right? Number 3, the Mavs. So here's the thing, like I mentioned earlier, like the seeding isn't who's better than who. It's more like how I think it's gonna play out in the regular season, right? And the Mavs have been a number 3 seed, won a championship. They went on a run. I think they were the number 5 seed when they went on that run to the Western Conference against the Warriors and lost, and then they were the number 5 seed last year. So I think that I have them at number 3 because I think that we are, we're really careful with our guys. I think that like with Luca, we want to make sure that he's healthy. So even if he has like soreness. We're not gonna, give him a whole bunch of minutes or even play him some nights. Same with Kyrie, right? I think that Klay Thompson is an amazing player. I think he's obviously gonna need some rest as well. And I think that we got Klay Thompson mainly for the playoffs to be that guy that makes the open shots and also for the finals. So I'm not worried about them. I just think I have him at number three. Just considering an 82 game season. The Timberwolves, they have Anthony Edwards. We both know this dude's a dog. He's just gonna keep on making another leap. The guy was being compared to Michael Jordan's, or being called Michael Jordan's son. So that just shows you how great he is. And I think they had a great draft. They got Rob Dillingham, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and he's gonna be able to contribute, I think, off the bench. Thunder, number one seed last year, and they added two great players that they needed. So they're the number one seed again, I think. What's yours?
No, I like that. So for mine, I have number 6, Phoenix. Number 5, the Grizzlies, who had 13. I feel like that's the biggest difference in both of our lists. Number 4, I have the Nuggets. Number 3, I have the Timberwolves. Number 2, I have the Thunder, and then number 1, I have the Dallas Mavericks. All right, maybe a little bit of my bias showing. 6 with Phoenix. I think they'll start to figure out some stuff this year. This is really a make it or break it year for them, I would think. Just because Durant is getting older, Booker really needs to kind of prove a lot of these haters wrong. But I think this is the year where they kind of start to gel a little bit, where they kind of show out in the regular season. I just think they have too much talent in their big three to fail again, like how they did last year. So I think they'll make the 6th seed, avoid the play-in.
Okay.
The Grizzlies, I'm a big believer in them, especially if Ja comes back healthy. They have a ton of scorers. They have a lot of defenders. Jaren Jackson is one of the former Defensive Player of the Year. Ja Morant, I think a lot of people are forgetting just how explosive and dynamic he was. And I think if they're able to stay healthy, unlike last year, a lot of those younger players like Gigi Jackson got a lot of valuable experience last year as well. So I think those are going to be really key role players for them. Okay. 4, I have the Nuggets. I do think there's finally going to be a decline with them. I think Murray, I don't know, he was kind of inconsistent last year a little bit. Yeah. Obviously, you have Jokic, so they're still going to be a top 4 seed, but they lost some players. But now they're going to really have to depend on their young players, and I think they'll be a little bit more inconsistent than what we've seen. Timberwolves, I have them as 3. Obviously, a very strong team, but they did lose Kyle Anderson, who was a key part. They did draft Rob Dillingham, but I don't know about him. I think he's probably a year away to being really a key role player for the Wolves. Yeah. And I think we're starting to get to that point where just a tad bit, maybe this is a hot take, but I think Anthony Edwards is becoming a little bit overrated at this point. He obviously had some crazy playoff success, but I think that just kind of who he is as a player, he can be kind of not hot and cold, but there are some nights where he's shooting pretty abysmal and he's not really doing a lot to get others involved. And so just a tad bit where I don't know if I'm the biggest, Anthony Edwards fan, but obviously still an amazing player. I think those Michael Jordan comparisons came from their how they look more than anything. But number 2,
they have similar play styles.
Yeah. So number 2, I have the Thunder, and number 1, I have the Mavs. And I think this is just a year where the Mavs figure it out, man. I think we've been waiting for it for a few years where, okay, when is that Luka MVP season going to happen? When is that number 1, where we look unstoppable or we look unbeatable? And so I think this is really the year where we kind of figure it out and we're like, this is kind of our time to be the number 1 seed and kind of all those things. And so I think it's going to be a close race between the Thunder and the Mavs. But I think that the Mavs will pull it off in the end. I think it's where Luka really starts to figure it out.
Awesome. Yeah. I think that, 1 through 6 is where we agreed the most. I had the Suns at 7. I think, so I guess your team that you think is going to be the surprise is the Grizzlies, and I got the Kings and Rockets. So I'm excited to see how that plays out. We're out of time, man, but I really enjoyed it. Great discussions. And I love both of our standings. I think we had some great picks. So I appreciate the discussion. Anything you want to say before we close off?
Hey, next show, Straight from the hotel room, straight from the top of the pyramid, from the roller coaster, from the Las Vegas sign. I don't know. You looking forward to Vegas?
Yes, sir. Guys, something fun to announce. So, me and Ashud and some of our college buddies were taking a trip to Las Vegas. So, our third episode will be filmed in Las Vegas, and we're gonna have guest hosts. Maybe we'll run into a summer league player there, and we'll get him on for an interview. You never know. So, that's just something excited to look forward to
Yeah.
for next week. So yeah, man, definitely excited. I think we're gonna have a blast. Excited to do the pod with all you guys. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
It'll be the only thing that happens in Vegas that does not stay in Vegas. It will go out
yeah,
to the rest of the world.
exactly. So hey, shit, I appreciate it, man. I hope you have a great night.
Yes, sir, man. It was a pleasure. I'll see you next week.
All right, lock in
All right.
Dallas. You know, we're
Lock
signing
in.
out. Yeah.
Lock in. Let's get some championships.